Welcome to A Chat with Heart podcast. I'm your host, Christina Martin. I'm here to guide us on this journey of heartfelt and uncensored conversations with friends I've met while touring my music in Europe and across North America, and people who have life experience that I genuinely believe we can all learn from. Our personal stories have great power to heal, influence, and inspire. All we have to do is show up for the conversation. If we just talk about it, we could shine a light, we could break a dark day. If we just talk about it, we can cut away, we can make a brighter day. Okay, I don't mean to bore you all, but I want to talk about planners. I love paper planners. I've always loved having my to-do list and my goals all in one place, and I love writing them out by hand and then rewriting them every other day. In the past, I would even go so far as to buy 1 or 2 new calendars midway through the year. I just really love planning. I guess my line of work in music, it's a good match for me because I've done a lot of planning, events and tours and now planning for this podcast. And it's right up my alley. I love it. I want to talk about this new planner that I've fallen in love with. It's called Work, Play, Every Day. It was created by singer-songwriter Betty Sue. If you visit workplayeveryday.com, there is a video explaining how you can make the most of this planner. And of course, you can order it on the website. I can tell you that I'm 2 months in now. That doesn't sound like much, but I am just scratching the surface of what this planner has to offer me. This is starting to sound like an ad, and I don't mean it to. I'm legit passionate about this. I can say it's really unique planner. You can set your goals in it. It's packed with all these cool, very clear tools to help me manage all my projects and my dreams and my to-do list. There are so many spaces to just get creative. I love it. And if the internet crashes, I'll always have my Work, Play, Everyday planner and all the details to make me feel warm and fuzzy and hopeful that the internet will return. Yeah, this is not a paid advertisement. I just really feel passionate about planners. And I bet some of you, not all, might also want to know about this great tip. My guest today is someone who also can appreciate planning, being busy, needing a place to keep track of everything. He's a busy guy. Since I went on tour with Dave Carroll in Ireland in 2010, he has been someone I've been watching. That sounds really creepy, but I looked up to him as an innovator when it comes to creating connections and being a really smart, uber successful business person. Right now, Dale and I are watching the Andy Warhol documentary on Netflix, and I love the part where in his journal, Andy says, "Good business is the best art." I mean, think about it. If you're successful in business, that means you have made people feel something enough that you have had an effect on their life. Maybe you've affected them so much that they've made a choice to listen to your song or go out to a museum, buy a ticket to see your painting. You've sparked something in them. Maybe you've caused a buzz and a chain reaction. What you've created is now a part of other people's memories, their life story. I think it's interesting to think of art and business or your brand in this way. I hope you enjoy my chat with Dave Carroll, an acclaimed singer, songwriter, speaker, author, and storyteller.
How long have you guys been together now?
We just celebrated our 11th wedding anniversary.
Oh, shit.
What about you guys?
We're been together nearly 20 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
But not married. Married probably 15, I think it is.
Wow, that's impressive because you know what the rates are.
Yep.
And 2 kids, 2 boys?
2 boys, yeah. Flynn will be 13 on the 21st, and Fisher will be 10 on July 13th.
Wow. So have you had to do homeschooling and while during
Yep.
this?
Yeah, like so Jill had a sort of family emergency right when COVID hit and she had to go to Ontario for a month. So that was
Oh,
when they dumped school on me. And so two kids having to do homeschool, then having to work on my own stuff, trying to figure out what I'm doing. And it was just overwhelming, right? It was like unbelievably overwhelming. And
yeah.
we got a dog just a month before too. So we had a puppy. So I came out
Oh.
here. I found like 1 hour to come out here and do some work. So I buckled down, did an hour of work. When I came in, the dog had eaten one shoelace out of all of my shoes. So all of my shoes had one shoelace missing.
Very
And
consistent. Very
yeah,
consistent dog.
so I had to go to the store the next day, the lowest point in my life, going in. And you know, women judge men by their shoes, right? I'm walking in with one tongue hanging out, totally got judged by this young girl, like 20 years old. And they're like, don't judge me.
Oh.
And then the next day it got lower because the dog shat out all of the shoelaces and couldn't get them out. So I had to pull out my shoelaces. Like, there's my hiking shoe. There's my running shoe.
No. That's disgusting.
Yeah,
Yay. Welcome to a Chat with Heart podcast.
it's my pleasure.
So, Dave, I know this about you. I've been on tour with you. I've had the privilege of being on tour with you in Ireland, and I've read from and heard from other people. You are one of the nicest humans in our business. But what I want to know is, have you ever done anything evil in your life? And what have you learned from it?
I got a past. I got a past.
Do you?
Of course I have a past. That's why I try and be nice now.
Oh, was there an age where you clued in? You know, you're like,
I've tried to be pretty fair and square to people. I learned that from my parents. But I could have gone either way. I think as a teenager, I've got that sort of devilish side where I like to hang out with the bad guys
yeah,
and do that kind of stuff. Broke a few windows and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I played basketball in high school, and we had a really good team, and it was really disciplined. And I think that brought me back and made me do the smart things. I think, or the smarter things, most of it. Yeah.
Thank God for sports, eh? And team sports and coaches and those the rules. Usually, I remember we weren't allowed to drink when we were on the sporting teams. Why did I just call it a sporting team? Who calls it that? What what the fuck?
Yeah.
Sports teams. Yeah, we weren't allowed to drink. And I think we were allowed to like go to parties, but we just were always so exhausted and occupied. And but when the season ended, I mean, we made sure we made time to party.
I'm 54 now, so that whatever that means. But I come from a time where drinking was pretty common. Everybody drank, and it was accepted that you drank. And I probably started drinking at 13.
Same.
But my parents let us drink at home. We would have the pre-high school dance parties at our place, and the team would come over. There'd be 10 people. We'd have a 6-pack each or something, get a buzz on and go to the dance. And my parents would drive us there, but it was sort of structured and there was no shame or sneakiness about it. And it turned out that by the time I got to university, I had drank enough in my life. I don't drink that much because I got it out of my system early. Maybe, I don't know.
It's so European of your parents.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds safe. Sounds responsible. Well, my experience was significantly different, but we aren't here to really talk about my my teen years. Okay, so I am reading your book, United Breaks Guitars: The Power of One Voice in the Age of Social Media, and I love it. I think you're a really great writer, and I did not know that about you. I knew you were a great storyteller, a great performer, hilarious. When I was reading it, you do mention in the book, you talk about how you mark success for yourself. And it made me think about, all the times in my life where I would look at what other people were doing and kind of use those as marks of what my success would be, and how oftentimes that would lead to my disappointment in myself, and then coming around to figuring that out for myself, having to define that for myself. So can you talk a little bit more about what your mark of success is now, how that's evolved, how you came to that?
So I think as a musician, I think because Don and I started off as just a duo, one guitar, two voices. and we were trying to make a living at it. So we couldn't afford to even consider a full band because we were dividing peanuts between two guys. So we couldn't, you know what that's like, right? And so we found that we became wildly successful in the music business, but not because we sold millions of records or anything, but because we were able to do what we wanted to do for a living and not have to take the dreaded day job. Got to play to audiences that started to grow a little bit the more we played, and they were there because they had a good time and we had a good time, and they told their friends. And so we were sort of doing what you have to do with social media before there was social media, caring about the people who came to your shows and not the ones who didn't, and not the industry who ask for the free tickets, but they don't really intend on maybe even showing up or paying attention when we're there, right? So we've invested ourselves in building a fan base instead of going after the industry stuff. And as a result, I could check in and say, am I happy now? Am I doing what I like to do most or more than anything in the world? And is that, do I want to do more of it? And if the answer is yes, then I keep going down that path. So it's not really about the money, and it's certainly not the fame. Like, I'm glad United Breaks Guitars happened, and there's a ton of fame that was thrown at me, but I've got a lifetime of it now, over 10 years. I don't need any more of it, but I understand the difference between going into a room and being liked right away and having to work at it, or going into a room and not being liked at all. And I like going into a room where you're liked already. So who wouldn't want that?
Yeah.
But I understand all the bad gigs I played in my life. I remember them like they were yesterday, and I appreciate a good gig when I get it. So I just try to get more of those.
Music career aside, what have been some of the marks of success for you personally, just in your personal life? And
I really like my kids.
oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah. I'm sure they'll like to hear this.
I like being a dad. There's nothing like it. There's that moment when you see your first child being born, and it does change you. You're never that same person again, because you now have all this responsibility, and you're going to be judged closer than anyone who will ever judge you again, silently, right, on what you do for the rest of your life. And so I'm aware of that, and I'm really proud of the boys. I think they're nice people, and like everyone loves their kids, but I think my kids are going to be nice people too. So we were just, for this show, I just did a show at the Halifax Library last night, and I haven't played a show in like 2 years, and like a full band show. So I said, I'm going to go treat myself to a new shirt. So we went downtown, walking down Spring Garden, and there was a homeless lady sort of sitting on the snow. The snow was falling, and we walked past her, and my son said, well, do we have any money? And I didn't have any change. So we walked past her, and there was hardly anyone on the street. So she asked, I said, I can't help you. And she wished me a good day and all that. And we went and got a shirt. And then coming back, I saw she was still there. So I mentioned to my son, let me see, I might have some change in my bag. So I'm ripping through the bag and I can't find it. And I remembered that in my little wallet, I had some emergency money tucked in behind my license, and I pulled it out, and it's like a $20 bill. And I thought, that's a lot. Right. But I said, I gave it to Fisher, and I said, give it to her. This will be the most money she probably gets from anybody today. And he did. And she was really surprised. And like, she paused and looked at me to see if it was okay to take the money, and because it was a lot for her. And we walked away, and he brought it up like 3 or 4 times that he's like, Dad, that was really good. We gave her that money. Like, most people probably walk right past her. Right. But it makes me feel good on the inside when, and so my son's waking up, and like, those are little check marks for me. That's success.
Yeah.
Very simple thing to do. And maybe that sends a ripple somewhere else and changes the world somehow,
Absolutely. That's a great story. Can we talk about the power of writing down your goals? I've been a list maker, a goal setter, checking in with my values since my, I think, early 20s. I'm sure I stumbled upon some book on my quest to just try to be better, try to get control of my life, and how, just in the process of not feeling in control on the inside and wanting so badly to feel healthy, to be healthy, to live life to the fullest, and like having dreams and like wondering how the heck to make these things happen. So what's that been like for you? When did you start writing things down, and what is that process like for you? And why do you think it's so important?
When I played basketball in high school, we went to a basketball camp. It was called the Cybernetics Yes I Can camp. So it was a 3-day camp on just changing the way you think about things. And in 3 days, I couldn't believe it. I thought, for the price they were charging at the time, it was a lot for my parents to come up with like $400 for me to go to a 3-day camp. And it was in Ohio, and a bunch of us went down there. But I saw people transformed just because of the way that they would get you to think differently. Guys that, you jump up and see how high you could touch on the rim or whatever, your highest jump ever. And then they do an exercise, and in 2 minutes, guys would jump higher than they ever had before. Like I saw a guy jump 6 inches higher than he ever had before with an exercise, because we're all holding ourselves back. The exercise,
Yeah.
yourself and actually jump as high as you could instead of as high as you thought you could.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty transformative. And one of the things in there was about goal setting, and that there was all these little sayings that they had throughout the camp. And one of them was, winning starts at the beginning, set goals. And we just chant that over, right? And over and over. And that was my first introduction to goal setting. I don't do it as much as I should, but I do it. I do it annually at least, but it does make a big difference. I remember Tony Robbins talking about a Harvard study that the people who wrote down their goals made more money. So money wasn't the only factor, but the people at Harvard 20 years later, the ones who wrote their goals down were worth more than the other 99% combined.
Wow.
Right? Financially. So I think if you do want to achieve anything, if you say it out loud, especially say it aloud to other people and write it down, I think it holds you accountable, and it makes you just in little micro moments. Maybe you want to lose some weight. Maybe you don't take that last spoonful of something, or you don't go to the fridge just because you thought about it. It's one little decision, but they all add up. And I think goal setting is the difference that moves you inches closer to your goal that you end up getting to eventually.
I told myself yesterday that I wanted to lose 3 pounds, and then I ate half a loaf of bread today. So that's not a good example of, but for the most part, I don't even need to lose weight. I think I was just bored.
Judgment then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever you want. Don't judge yourself.
Definitely wasn't judging myself when I was continued to slice and slice and slice. It's really good bread.
Yeah.
Okay. During the pandemic, I was watching the video for your song When the World Stops Ending, which I believe you co-wrote with Jamie Robinson.
I did, yeah.
And I will admit to crying. Mm-hmm. I didn't expect to cry, but when, okay, so I realized how busy I make myself and distracted. And oftentimes I'm kind of caught up in my own little hustle. And, but when I take time to check out what my friends are doing and like watch their videos or listen to their lyrics and really be present with whatever it is they're doing, I am always surprised at how moved I am. And so, yeah, that song made me cry and spoke to the fact that you are a world-class storyteller, singer-songwriter. And I just love the clarity in how you communicate and the connection. It just clicked. Like it just clicks. You're really good at that. And so I learned, that I have much more that I can learn from you after all these years of being so busy, with my own life. It's exciting because it's sort of like you didn't realize something was out there and now it's there for other people to discover ongoing. Oftentimes we write a song, we put it out, and the industry might, lose interest after 2 weeks and call it old news. But when there's something that, is born of just a really beautiful intention, and it's always going to be out there. Like that's what I think we can get discouraged sometimes. But anyway, I got excited. I love the song. And I was curious if that was the first pandemic kind of project that you did after kind of, the shock of it all.
Yeah, it was. Well, when COVID first came out, I wrote a little jingle called the COVID-19 song, Wash your COVID-19 hands.
Oh, okay. I need to find that one.
There's just a little video about maybe 2 minutes long or something like that of getting people to wash their hands. And we thought it was going to last 2 weeks.
Yes.
So I shot the video with my kids and everything. It was more for younger audiences, very lighthearted. But when it became more serious, we wrote this song, Jamie and I, right after the shootings in Nova Scotia. And so somebody else had asked, you want to write a song about that? And I thought, like, I was gutted by that. I'm, 1 degree away from somebody who, or 2 degrees, I guess, from somebody who died, and it was just so depressing, right? And I didn't have any space for that. But a couple of days after that, I started thinking about this idea for the song, When the World Stops Ending. And it's a different perspective, right? I'm not giving any attention to that, the shootings, but it was more like, okay, this and the COVID and all these other things, we have an opportunity to choose a different response to all of these things that are bringing us down. And so that's what the song was about. And Jamie and I said, what could the song be about? And we thought, well, how about we offer one solution would be to love each other like we never did before, better than we did, without keeping score. And the song came together really quickly over Zoom. I'd never really written a song over Zoom, but no one was ever in the same room together for the whole process.
Yeah.
And that was kind of cool, and proved it could work anyway. I still prefer being in person, but
Zoom's changed a lot of things for a lot of people. My preference is not Zoom. I find it, after I get off a Zoom meeting, I don't know what, maybe it's just the extra screen time or something, but I feel very fatigued. But then on the other hand, I'm super grateful for it, for the ability to connect with people in this way. You know, I actually prefer it to just a phone call, and it's great to see people. But were there any surprise kind of results or connections made with that song that made you feel good about it?
Yeah. So when we first put it up, this is the curious thing about social media, which tells me after everything that's happened, I still don't understand it, because we had like 14,000 views and a pile of likes. Like the likes and the comments were just coming in, and then it just stopped. And it's almost like the algorithm just turned it off all of a sudden, because you can't have that kind of momentum building after 3 days and then just nobody commenting. And it stayed at about 14,000 for months. So I don't understand it, but the comments were overwhelming. People were saying, this is exactly what I need at this time right now. And you know, a lot of uncertainty, and people were, instead, the song for 4 minutes was getting people to think about how they're connected to other people for a moment, and that remembering that we're all in this together, and we have an option. The option is always to try and be more compassionate and care more about people. And when you do that, it seems to shave off any anxiety you have about your own problem if you're worried about somebody else's well-being. It's pretty amazing that compassion does that. So
yeah.
And through the United Breaks Guitars connection, somebody in Israel heard the song and he loved it. And he was tied to a conference on scientists, I guess, that are coming together to find cures for all sorts of things, a big conference. And so they used that as the theme song for the conference in Israel, which is, you know, that's pretty cool.
That's really cool. Okay. So in your book, there's some tips for songwriters, and I don't want to spoil it I want people to read the book, because I'm finding it very helpful and inspiring. But I would love it if you would share a top tip for songwriters or aspiring writers, and then they could read the book.
So if you go to my website, I have a video that sort of pops up. It's got no sound, but it's just me on a beach, and then it says I'm this, I'm that, or whatever.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
Storyteller, and that's the way I see myself. So storytelling is the way I think about things. So you can do it with a song or anything, but every good story has tension, and so that's probably my tip. Find the tension in something. And I was watching a screenwriter who was the guy from West Wing, and Alan Sorkin.
Okay.
And he was explaining that, and he did a really good job. He said something like, if you said Jane's going to San Francisco, she's driving across the country to go to San Francisco from New York, that's not a story. But if you say Jane has to get to San Francisco by Tuesday or someone dies, now you've got some tension there. There's a reason that she has to be there, and you're invested. Okay, now I'm going to pay attention, because it's not just about nothing. You can't just write a song and say, you know, everything's great in my life and I'm really happy for it. You know, there's a couple songs that get away with that. You'll have to say, like, my life's pretty shitty right here, and it could get better, but it might not get better. Or if it gets better, it might be because of this, but only if this happens first. And you got to put all these pieces together and show the value and get people invested. And I think tension is the best way you can do it. And you can do it with music, like certain chords that aren't major chords. You know, you throw in a minor or something that's tense. You feel it. So a good story is always about the feeling. You can feel it with music or with lyrics, or if you really want to go crazy, do it with both, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, my songs are riddled with tension, but there may be a little too much tension. I think I need a little balance it out a little more with some release.
You need to
Dave.
write a polka. It's clear you need to write a polka.
Listen, maybe my next songwriting season, that's what my focus will be. Oh my goodness.
I've done that with my kids and put Walter Ostanek, the polka CD on, and they don't even know who Walter Ostanek is. They didn't really know what a polka was, but they knew they just hated it because it was too happy. Right?
Oh, geez.
Well, the tension was just listening to it.
My lyrics against polka music might just be, it might be the right combo. It's time for a Fluster break. I want to thank those of you listening who have purchased the game Fluster online at www.flustergame.com and used my promo code to save 15%. The promo code is Christina15. Yeah, I really hope you're enjoying the game with your friends at home, and I hope that you are enjoying these Fluster conversation breaks with my guests. What's something you recently overreacted to?
Well, here's a straight answer. Like when United Breaks Guitars went viral, it's the #1 music video in the world for a month, and I expected that the music industry would say, okay, now we want to hear what else Dave Carroll's written. Let's book him up. And that didn't happen at all. It was the opposite. People considered that song sort of like Weird Al Yankovic, and that it didn't really have artistic merit, and that I became that one. They put me in a box and said, that's kind of what it is. And that pissed me off, like, because I've been a musician all this time, and I always have seen myself as a singer-songwriter more than anything else. And so I overreacted to that. I should have just accepted I don't have control over that and been completely grateful on wherever it was going to go. And eventually I did go that way anyway. I put too much energy into worrying about why people didn't appreciate that as a cool thing. Like now everyone likes social media. Everyone would kill to have that kind of exposure and appreciate it. But at the time, it's only been just over 10 years, but at the time, no one really thought it was a valid way to share your music. And I'm living through it. And I was upset that people weren't with me on it and didn't see the same thing I was seeing and that sort of thing. So, and if I could take it back, I would tell myself, just let it go and have fun with everything else that's going on.
Thanks for sharing that. Cause I mean, that would piss me off too. And it does kind of piss me off. Cause I remember being on that tour with you in Ireland with Terry Penny and Dave Gunning, all of you just incredible storytellers and singer-songwriters. And when we would all sing, you had us singing along to United Breaks Guitars, and the audience would sing along, and it's still stuck in my head. We've been singing it all week because once I started, getting ready for this and hearing it again, and it just brought back this like warm, fuzzy feelings. And if the industry could be in the room when you were singing that song and telling the story, and we were all singing along, and the feeling that it made, like, knowing that, and then hearing what you just told me, like it does piss me off too. But I really do hope that you have had fun with, regardless of that.
Those things that are kind of meaningless. The industry's acceptance or rejection of you doesn't really matter. It's what the people think. And I remember I've told that story many times, that we were in Dublin, I think. And I'm introducing the United Breaks Guitars, and the people didn't know me from Adam until I started talking about that. And you know how the Irish will swear, but it doesn't sound like swearing for them. Mm-hmm. And like there's this sea of whispers going on. That's the fucking guy. The fucking. Yeah. Right. You're the fucking guy who did the fucking song.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
I can definitely relate to, people also along the way telling you, this is going to happen. This is what you can expect in the industry. And then kind of when that happens, then you'll have made it, or, it's only a matter of time, or saying these things. And then those things don't actually happen, or for whatever reasons. And then I can remember getting to the point where I just literally had to talk myself into, you need to decide what is going to make you happy, what your mark of, of success is. And and block it out and put your blinders on, because otherwise you're going to miss.
Music career, it's way more rejection than success. Like the whole career is about trying to get those really, really good gigs and opportunities. because most of the time they're tough gigs or a certain amount of rejection. You don't get all the gigs you apply for, I guess is what I'm saying.
Oftentimes the things you really, really want, you just don't get them, and you're surprised sometimes because you thought, oh, I had such a good plan or whatnot. But then in the process of trying for those things, you meet other people and connections and have opportunities come that you just didn't expect, and they are really rewarding. So keep trying is what I'm saying. Not to you, but to our listeners. You're good. You can retire. You're fine. Okay, I've got one more. What do you think? Well, let's answer this for each other. What do you think I'm afraid of? And I will try to figure out what I think you are afraid of.
That's a bold question.
I know. Yeah.
I don't know. What would you be afraid of?
I'll give you a hint. I mean, there's a lot of things.
I would say my guess would be, and it's not founded on fact or anything, but I think you probably worry about not measuring up or bringing an A game to the stage. Like you want your stuff to be valued and appreciated at the highest level, and that maybe you second guess that, but you're already doing it. That's the funny thing, but it's hard to convince a person that they are not.
Oh, I see. Well, I definitely want a certain quality of a show. Like there's the sort of vision of my head of how I would like things to sound and look and affect people on a like visceral level, artistically and emotionally. But then the other thing I am always concerned about is the comfort level of the audience. Like I want them to have this experience when they're walking. I feel like I'm in the process, honestly, of still, this will be like a lifelong pursuit of wanting to make these kinds of shows, but they're walking into the venue. And when my parents used to take us to the Playhouse, Fredericton Playhouse, to watch theater and musicals, that was always you would get ready for it. You would get dressed up and showing up. It was just so awe-inspiring and magical. And even just the moments leading up to the lights turning down and the show beginning, and then the intermission and the snacks and the drinks and coming back. And I mean, the whole thing, right? An experience to remember and really leave an impact. And so I worry about that not happening. Like I want that to happen for everybody. And I'd like to be a part of that, obviously, to help bring that into somebody's life. Like it was, I guess, so I guess I do have, the fear of maybe never living up to the potential that I believe that, myself and the people I work with, the musicians have. And I mean, I'm also afraid of like snakes. And
you are afraid of snakes?
Yeah. Oh yes. I have a snake phobia. Also worms. I don't really like them I don't like them around, but I know that they're necessary and good. Okay, I'm gonna try to guess what you're afraid of.
Okay.
I don't know if you're afraid of very much, but maybe this is just common sense. But I would think that you would be afraid that your kids, of the future for your kids, like that the world may not be as safe a place as maybe when you grew up.
That's a totally valid fear. We talk about that all the time. So one of the songs on my new CD is called The Giant, and I wrote it for my son. And not because there's anything really unusually bad going on in his life, but all kids have negative self-talk. We all have it, right? Mm-hmm. And so as a dad, when I first became a dad, I thought, okay, I'm going to make sure that these kids know they're unconditionally loved, so that no matter what happens for the rest of their life, they know that they were loved by two people, their mom and dad, unconditionally, no matter what happened. But I started being a dad at 40, or I was 41 really technically when Flynn was born. And so if things go as they're supposed to, there will be a big chunk of his life where I'm not going to be here. And I don't ever want him to feel like he has no one that loves them. And then I thought, well, the real deal, the real gift you could give to your kids is to help them love themselves. And so that no matter what happens, any room they go into, there's one person who always loves them, which is themselves. And so that's what the song was about. And so I'm careful when you hear what they're teaching at school and that sort of thing. There's a lot of shame and a lot of blame, and with critical race theory and things like that. And I understand the seriousness of the things that those sides are bringing to the table. But I really don't believe that shaming yourself in any way is going to solve any problem at all. So that's because I fear that. I've sort of, in my speaking and everything, I've created a thing called compassionate design, and it's got 3 L's, and it's love, look, and look again.
Yeah.
Love is to love yourself and appreciate what you bring to the party, and that in any room you go into, you bring value, and know that. And then the second one is to look, which means to appreciate that every other person you come in contact with has a superpower too. And you can look at them and see that, be curious about who they are and look for their superpower and know that they're special. And then the third one is to look again, and which is to look for yourself in everybody that you meet. Because if we have mostly everything in common, if you look hard enough, I can easily find myself in you, and you can find yourself in a perfect stranger from another country in not too long. And if you love and respect yourself first, then you've got the basis for an awesome relationship if you can find that in the other person. So if you did those 3 things, the 3 L's, you would be uplifting somebody else and raising everybody else. And you'd be caring about other people than yourself. And that's how you get a better society, and how you make the world a better place. It's not by pointing the finger at somebody and saying, you need to feel guilty immediately about this, right?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Kids, yeah.
How long have you been working on that?
Yeah, 54 years.
Okay. Whoa. That's awesome,
Yeah.
Dave.
Yeah.
Oh, that was beautiful. Is this out there yet? Like,
Well, it is. I've been working in my talk. So with the United Breaks Guitars talks, I would finish with the idea that we're all connected. That's why the video was popular. And then I started thinking a few years back, well, what does it mean if we're all connected? And then it's maybe we have a responsibility to help other people. And that means maybe compassion is the answer. And to me, compassion is this thing where you see suffering and it's a verb. You see suffering and you do something to fix it. It's not empathy, because empathy is just like, I'm not going to judge you for being that way. But if you see a homeless person on the street, empathy is walking by and saying, I have no money, thank you. Compassion is actually digging out some money and giving it to them. Right? So that's where I think businesses need to go. And to me, it seems to be the solution to just about everything. If you can be more compassionate, it just works across the board.
Let's talk about your new book, which was what triggered me to invite you to do this. Of course, I was like, oh, he has a new book, but he has so much else to contribute as well, that this is a great opportunity to catch up. So Tom the Tomato Plant, immediately my first thought was, I love tomato sandwiches. And then immediately I felt guilty for saying that, because here you've personified a tomato, and then my thought was, I want to eat him. So that's not very compassionate, I don't think. And anyway, before I screw this up for you, tell us more about Tom the Tomato Plant and the story of, well, yeah, I guess you don't want to spoil it. I mean,
I can give you this sort of the story arc a little bit, but
okay.
I thought of that same thing too, and other people have thought too. This is about you're eating the guy's children, basically.
Is that what's okay?
But Tom is a tomato plant. He's not the tomato. So I've got 2 boys, and a few years back, probably 3 or maybe even 4, we'd go to bed, and I just riff stories off the top of my head. And kids, being brutally honest, would sometimes listen to these stories and say, "Dad, that was awful," or "That story sucks." But I came up with this story called Tom the Tomato Plant, about a tomato plant that was smaller than all the rest, and he got to the farmer's market, and he was put at the back of the table with all the bigger ones around him, and all the bigger ones got picked, and he was at his lowest point in his life, shrugging his branches forward and looking down and knowing he's never going to get picked, until one day a little girl comes by, and she has got no money, she's got no real power, but she persuades her family to take an interest and go and bring Tom home. And so it changes his life and everyone else's in the family, as they all root for him and give him a bigger pot of soil. And he reacts by trying to be everything they said he could be, and tries to reach the sun, knowing he's never going to touch it, but he keeps trying. And he grows 4 tomatoes, and he rewards the family and lives a life of purpose. And so it really is about compassion and seeing yourself in other people. And if you care for other people, they reward you back. And it's about resilience. And I finished that for, I guess, boys just to see what it'd be like to do a children's book, but it's also a business parable that I use in my adult talks. Yeah. So the book has, it comes with a bookmark and seed paper. Yeah. So it's got tomato seeds in it. So you can grow your own tomatoes and nurture them the way Tom was nurtured. And then at the back, I've got the sheet music for the song "The Giant," because I didn't write it for the book, but it's got everything, the messages, and there's a QR code. So at the end of the book, you can capture it and hear the song or the theme song right away to the story.
Beautiful.
And my gut feeling is that good stories are felt, and you can make people feel things by activating any of the five senses. So if you include the new book smell, this captures all five senses.
It smells like tomatoes?
No, but it smells like a new book. So there is.
You covered everything else, the seed paper. You had an opportunity there, Dave.
If I had it to do again, I would make it smell like tomatoes.
Oh my God. I bet the Tom's tomatoes make great sandwiches.
Oh, I think they will.
Is it true your parents are driving around delivering these orders in the HRM?
Yep. They're if you do a order in town and it's kind of close to their house, they'll definitely drop one off, and they take it seriously. Like they're like the mail. They go out in bad weather, but they're all about customer service. My mom's been doing our mail order forever, since before the internet. So this is the next evolution.
Amazing. And okay, so tell my Little Heartbeat listeners where they can buy the book and find you online.
So probably everything goes through my website. So davecarrollmusic.com. And the Tom the Tomato right now, you can only get the hardcover, and you can only get it through me. And so eventually we'll get it online, but that will only ever be a soft cover option. So if you want the hardcover, and that's the one that I took a lot of time and effort to make sure it looked and felt right. You can get it through me, and mail, all the traditional ways. Yeah.
Awesome. I love traditional ways. Thanks, Dave. Thanks for this chat with Heart. I wish you all the best with the success of the book. And what else are you working on? What's coming up?
I'm working on the new record that came out in September and trying to get some the calendar booked up with that. But right after I released the CD in St. John, New Brunswick, Omicron came through, so it sort of killed the momentum. So we're just getting started now, starting to feel like normal again.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens, but just keep plugging away and still playing for the fun of it, writing for the fun of it, and seeing where the speaking goes and all of that.
Welcome to the Heartbeat Hotline, 1-902-669-4769. I'm the host of A Chat with Heart podcast, Christina Martin, and I'm so excited you called. Leave me your question, a suggestion for the podcast, or a comment about this episode. Please be aware your message may be used on the podcast and social media. Tell me your name, where you're calling from, and it's also fine if you want to remain anonymous. Thanks for listening. Have a great fucking day. A Chat with Heart, produced and written by me, Christina Martin, co-produced and engineered by Dale Murray. Check out Dale's website, dalemurray.ca. The podcast theme song, Talk About It, was written by me and recorded by Dale Murray. You can find it on all the places you stream music. Production plans for this podcast and Season 1 are supported by the Province of Nova Scotia's Women in Business Implementation Fund and the Creative Industries Fund. Special thanks to Terrence Taylor for mentoring me on hosting this podcast and really digging deep with me on my production plans for Season 1, which, let's be honest, Terrence, ended up being more like well-needed psychotherapy for me. To Crystal Seeberger at Sensory Friendly Solutions, thank you from the bottom of my heart for helping me learn how to be a more inclusive, accessible, and sensory-friendly human. Visit my Patreon page to become a monthly or yearly supporter of this podcast and my music endeavors. If you're new to Patreon, it's a membership platform that helps creators get paid. Sign up at patreon.com/Christina Martin. For this to be a massive success and reach 7 billion people, I need you to share, rate, leave a review, and subscribe to A Chat with Heart on all the places you listen to podcasts. Wishing you, my little heartbeats, a great day.